May 28th, Sunday, 8:40 Mountain Time, 2017. Power outage. That's the word of the day. Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, parts of Missouri are experiencing power outages today as I do this video. And in the Memphis area, they say prepare for long-term outages. Here's some of the damage from wasn't a full-fledged superstorm. I guess it was in its own capacity, but we've seen bigger. But this storm here almost looked like a derecho to me when it was forming. I talked about it yesterday when I did the video about the space storm and the 96-hour scenic route that it took from the sun to get to Earth, and then when it arrives, boom, power outages from thunderstorms, not from the space storm. But it was coincidental, to say the least. But if you're in the Tennessee area, Memphis, you're probably not watching this video now, because we have 188,000 people without power. There are crews coming in from multiple states to help with the situation. There's trees down everywhere. When the trees go, they usually land on power lines, and the power lines come down, and then no power. I remember being in Hurricane Charlie, and the area that I lived in, the power lines were underground, and the power only flickered. All of the communities that had power lines above ground were without power for 2 weeks. So the underground lines do have their advantages. But look at some of the storm damage here. There's bricks knocked off of a building. Trees just snapped off everywhere, like twigs laying in the streets, landed on power lines, up on homes. Just an incredibly huge mess up there in that area. And not only in the, look at that, that's a big old tree. In the Memphis area, over in the Clarksville area, without power for extended periods of time as well. And they're probably not watching this video if they're in this area, because there's 67,000 people sitting around in the dark. 19,000 people are without broadband internet service, I guess. That's what that means. Going to be without that for maybe multiple days. Here's a look at some of the hail that was responsible for some of the damage and the high wind. This is in Missouri. 4¼ inch hail yesterday. That is huge. That's bigger than a softball. In Tennessee, they saw tennis ball size hail, if I'm not mistaken. At least pool ball size hail. Bigger than a golf ball. High winds. And that's what the storm I'm about ready to show you here in a minute produced. High winds and big hail because of tall updrafts. When these updrafts go way high up into the atmosphere and they carry moisture with them, this is what comes down. Big giant hail. And it's not always quite this big. This is from Missouri. I'm sorry. Actually, this is from Missouri. That's bigger than a softball. So if you're outside in that, that's going to hurt. That could actually be very dangerous. The amount of cars that were damaged up in that area is probably in the tens of thousands. Knocked over that obelisk. That's a monument there in Memphis, Tennessee. That's like a small version of the Washington Monument. But incredible situation up there. And they are going to be without power for many days. And in fact, here is I think a brief clip of some hail bouncing off the ground. And that's larger than golf ball size right there. But here's the culprit right there. Look at some of the black signatures you're going to see. Look at that. That's the one that went through Memphis, Clarksville. Right there's your guy that took out the power. Look at that signature in eastern Arkansas. Oh boy, that is very, very strong. Creates an updraft. That's what it's doing right there. The hail is forming. Gravity pulls it down at over 100 miles per hour. That storm did a lot of damage. Flooding too. Flooding, high winds, and hail. So now there's upwards of 250,000 people sitting around in the dark right now, and could potentially be without power for days. But they've called in crews from other states, Indiana, Kentucky, Mississippi, to help out with the situation to try to expedite things. But that was an incredible storm, and it did happen right after the space storm hit Earth. The two are completely unrelated, but nevertheless, there was a major power outage after the event. During these uncertain times, I encourage you to be brave, be strong, be wise, and be ready, my friends. Thanks for watching. Take care.